Welcome back to the Freedom Family. We were down in our state's capital this last Tuesday, and things got a little bit heated. You'd used some strong language there and got security called on me. I think it was justified, but I will leave that to the viewer to determine. I'll leave that to you.
Yeah, our New Mexico legislature, the Courts, Corrections, and Justice Committee, was going over previous crime initiatives that they have done and the proposals that are yet to come, just like there are proposals all over the nation.
Yep, in your state, in the nation. So let's listen to this. Just super brief segments on both my comments and Michael's comments.
Okay, go ahead, Casey Peterson, 3 minutes.
Yeah, Gail and Joseph and rest of you incompetent twats that keep taking our rights away here. You come up here and you pass a bunch of laws over the years, making us closer and closer to what Washington, D.C. is, to what California is, New York, Portland, and then you act shocked when our violent crime rate shoots through the roof.
Sir, I'm going to rule you out of order. The language you're using is inappropriate for this chamber.
Go to hell. I'll use whatever language I want. You guys are in here gutting our state, and then you're shocked when it...
So he then proceeded to try to gavel me down for another minute of me speaking, and so we don't need to go over that. That's already hard to hear audio. And Mike was much more cordial. Michael actually held her composure and anger and got a lot more in, and I want to highlight one specific part that's extremely important here.
I'm sorry.
I also personally know 2 individuals who in the past month have been unable to reach 911 dispatch when they needed to get help for others in need. They waited over 15 minutes to reach dispatch. Why don't we address that problem first? Our police forces and first responders need more support from you. Your solutions are not working. Crime has risen since 2020 and your HB 68. And you still seek to disarm, punish, and seize liberties from those law-abiding individuals that might comply. You want to make it harder for law-abiding citizens to protect ourselves and our families.
So the part there, one of the parts I want to highlight is the fact that we have 2 people that we know personally that have called for help, and they took them 15 minutes to get help from 911. And imagine these were fairly serious cases, but some people that were hurt, could have been dying, injured, but luckily not, that nobody died in those instances. But imagine this was a school shooting or something similar. And our frustrations come from the fact that, we show up down here at our state's capital in New Mexico, and they have been passing the same soft on crime bills, as I said there, as California, New York, Chicago, D.C., and Portland. And then they act surprised and shocked when our crime rate skyrockets to match those cities.
And their solutions to rising crime are to negotiate away our rights, those of us who would comply.
That's right. So perfect government here saying, let's create a problem and then take away the citizens' rights in order to solve this problem. Well, we create it, and we need more power in order to solve the problem that we created. And according to the FBI data in 2019, the homicide rate in Albuquerque, this little city in New Mexico, little by national standards, it broke records and reached an astonishing 80 homicides for this little city. And then last year in 2021, we shattered that record with 117 killings and secured Albuquerque's spot on the FBI's top list of the top 10 most violent cities in the nation.
So New Mexico is the second most violent state in the nation. Under Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham and the Mayor Tim Keller of Albuquerque, we are on track for an equally more violent year this year.
Yeah, even more violent.
And Senator Joseph Cervantes is the guy who gavelled him down, the co-chair, bragged about his 2020 crime bill, HB 68, which has done nothing for the murder rate in Albuquerque.
Yeah, and they're just not even self-aware, because here he is bragging about this, and they don't care about results. Like, he brags that he implemented this bill in 2020, yet they're having this session right now because crime has gotten so bad. Like
Yeah.
maybe connect the dots to your own legislation that's soft on crime, maybe causing these issues, just like they have around the entire country. It's not like we're a limited data set here. And then he's bragging about the support he has from law enforcement and the sheriffs, right? Saying on this last crime bill he had support. And in the next breath, unironically, he bragged about how he didn't invite certain sheriffs and law enforcement who didn't support his bill last time. It's like, well, no, duh, you have support. They're a bunch of elected officials just like you, these sheriffs, and they believe in the same craziness that you believe in, and it's pay to play apparently here.
So yeah, he definitely doesn't like criticism, and that was, sorry,
Yeah.
that was even true. There are representative. Sorry, you gotta talk a second.
So he was berating our representative, Stephanie Lord, and really going after her because she was actually stepping in and pushing back on some of the craziness that he was proposing. And she was specifically talking about the red flag laws. And a woman in the gallery got so upset that she actually stood up, and she was, this was before we even did public comment, she was pissed off. She called him a dick and a misogynistic asshole. And like that was entertaining enough, but a lot of people were upset and trying to go back after him. But anyone that was criticizing was shut down immediately. And we did contact legal help to see if they're even legally allowed to shut us down in public comment at our state's capitol in front of our public officials. But I will hear back from them, and if there is a case there, we're certainly going to bring the legal case. And that's why support at freedomfamiliesunited.com is important. If you go there and donate, we've got 2 legal cases we're trying to explore right now, and especially the critical race theory just in this state. So this is stuff that does cost money, and we do have to put our money where our mouth is when it comes to our values. But this Joseph Cervantes was super high and mighty with
he was
his
very full of himself.
very self-important. And it's frustrating to me because I was in the U.S. Army infantry for 5.5 years, and I lost more battle buddies and more friends due to suicide after we got back than we lost while we were in combat. And these red flag laws put barriers in place for them to actually go and get the help that they need. When they reach out, they now have to ask themselves, before they reach out for help, for mental health services, they have to say, do I really want to put my Second Amendment constitutionally granted rights that I fought for at risk in order to seek help out? Because if you're a danger to yourself, yourself or others, they're going to take those away, and they'll deem like, yeah, you seem like, oh, you had suicidal thoughts? Yeah, you're a danger to yourself. Let's take those guns away. So this particularly upsets me. And then for him to go after our representative who's trying to bring light to some of these issues, just I think it sent me over the edge just a little bit.
Yeah, we definitely have to call out him and other of our representatives who are actually trying to take our rights away. They're not addressing the actual problems, like the 911 dispatch that we can't reach if we actually needed help. And then they expect us to not be able to defend ourselves in certain areas.
Or stop the catch and release laws where we're releasing the same criminals back out on the streets to commit the same crimes or worse crimes the next time. This was just all completely performative virtue signaling and an infringement on our rights. Nothing more.
Well, and another thing that they did say is they said it would be easier if we just deal with the guns, like the object, not the people. It's like psychological evaluations and such.
Yeah, and then the Albuquerque Journal covered this, talked about the fact that they were addressing the rising gun violence rates, prompted scrutiny of our state laws. And I don't want to read this whole thing, but I would like to go over this last part right down here.
So it says, "We know it works if it's taken far enough," said Cervantes. So our senator says, "We know it works if it's taken far enough," citing Australia's sweeping 1996 gun control law that was followed by a 60% decrease in gun homicide.
Yeah, and we'll get into that claim to begin with, but they talked about this idea that, each of these little laws was a pebble in this dam that they're building, but they really kind of showed what the dam was. It wasn't about the crime, right? Their dam was completely about guns. Total and complete gun control. And if that statement's not telling enough, what was the other representative saying there about, there was a representative that was talking about, it's hard to address the problem with mental health. It's easier to address the gun itself.
Yes. They said that in multiple different ways.
Yes. So very telling exactly what they're going after here. It's not so much about the crime or the individual before they commit the crime. It's about the gun.
So the proposals that they're putting forward for next year's session, the new pebbles to add to their down. Says, while bills have not yet been filed for next year's session, some of the specific ideas mentioned Tuesday include raising the age to purchase certain AR-15 style semi-automatic weapons from 18 to 21, establishing a new state office focused on gun violence prevention, and making it a crime for adults to fail to safely secure firearms around children.
Yep. And the legislative hearing was testy at times, with Cervantes galling down one of the self-described military veterans who told the Democrat ranking committee member to, quote, go to hell, among other insults during the scheduled public comment period. So that's extremely inappropriate, whoever did that. Very unprofessional. Let's talk a little about these laws in Australia. And you might get shown this chart saying, oh, look at the gun deaths in the U.S. compared to Australia. Since the 1969 gun ban, look how much faster 1996 gun ban, look how much faster they've gone down. And since we have two brain cells to rub together here, we're going to dive a little deeper into their data and not just take their word for it. And when we do dive deeper, this is what we find. First of all, it needs to be said here that in the United States, just between 1993 and 2013, so barely before that 96 gun ban in Australia, gun ownership went up by 56% and gun violence went down by 50% or 49%. Now, if we look at the suicide rate, this is Australia's suicide rate. This is what happened after their gun ban. And you look at the deaths, so they did have an overall decrease in homicides total. So that's what we're going to start comparing. What is the homicides total? So if we pull that chart out, you see a fairly stable decline all the way starting, right at, maybe even a little before the gun ban. But you see this kind of stable decrease in the overall homicides. An initial spike in homicides, certainly, but then a decrease. But the U.S., over that same period of time, decreased faster without any gun ban. So is that saying that guns were the problem? In fact, they continued to decrease until very recently we had a spike. Something happened around 2020. Something happened in the United States that caused a 2020 spike, and mainly completely driven by our massive cities. If you look at every city over 250,000, that's where we saw that spike. And that's exactly when they were implementing these soft on crime laws, these anti-police initiatives, defund the police. And Australia has continued to increase their spending in support of police over the years while this decrease has been happening. So is it completely associated to guns? Certainly the gun deaths are, but that doesn't mean they reduced their overall violence. People found a way to kill themselves and others without these firearms.
So it's saying you either need to have a complete and total authoritarian police state like Australia to make crime decrease, which is what New Mexico wants, or you increase responsible gun ownership and make it easier for citizens to protect themselves, and crime also goes down. So which one do we want here in America?
Yep, and we had a bunch of Australians warning us during these massive lockdowns where they were infringing on their rights so heavily. And you had them telling Americans, like, you be careful, this is what happens. They have no fear of their citizens, and when they ban guns, they know that they can do absolutely anything to their citizens, and their citizens are powerless to defend themselves.
There's such a simple quote. I don't even know who said it. Literally, a person with a gun is a citizen. A person without a gun is a subject.
And on that thought, get out there and spread truth, courage, and freedom.